So I'm going to start with a story because I think a story is always a good place to start. I realized last night when I sat down to prepare this presentation that that as we speak, or as I speak, 38 years ago today, my mother's labor had started. I didn't realize that ahead of time, and I think I'm glad. So she was birthing me 38 years ago today. And I want to tell you her story and allow it to inspire you. My mother was an American from California, and at that time, in 1974, the natural birth movement was very much afoot in California, and she had read things and seen things and heard things. But she fell in love with a Canadian, and she followed him to a small town in northern British Columbia in Prince George. But she still had this idea of this natural birth, and she went searching, and she found a family doctor, and she went to him and she said, "I want to have a natural birth, and I don't want you to cut an episiotomy." And he said yes. And my mother had that natural birth in this small village where that, at that time, was not really happening. What she didn't know was that she was in a hospital that still separated mothers and babies. So after I was born, I was taken to the nursery. And my mother, because she had become a lioness mother, she had birthed me with her own power. She stood in front of that window, and the nurses kept sending her away. And she kept coming back. And she said, "I want my baby." And they said to her, "No, no, no, because you'll disturb the other women with your baby crying." And she said, "If I can find another woman that wants her baby, can I have my baby?" And of course, she found another woman who doesn't want their baby. And I think in that moment, a birth advocate was born in me. And that's what this conference is about. This conference is about putting the woman back at the center of the experience. Yes, but you have to put the woman at the center of experience in order for the baby to be born. And I really believe that Deborah did a very eloquent job yesterday of explaining the evidence behind the doula. It is something we can bring into birth that has no side effects, that only has benefits. And we saw in 2006, when the doula training started in Holland, it came from the wish of a mother who read about the idea of a doula and searched out a woman in Holland to become her doula. And next slide, please. I'll forget to do the slides completely. And thankfully, that movement continued woman to woman. Women want to give birth to their babies in their power, and we know that by having emotional support with each other together, and midwives working together with doulas, that we can provide that for women. We are at a crisis moment in this country. We've talked about it. And if we can come together as women and support women in birth, we can bring about change. I wanted to put this up because we've talked about all the negative press, but a couple of weeks ago we had a little bit of positive press, so it's important to say it. This was a 2-page article in a newspaper in Amsterdam that says, a coach with every contraction. I think it's important to realize that many women, as we've said, experience transfer in Holland. 22% of women are giving birth at home, and the rest are going to be giving birth in hospital. And a doula will always be with a woman. And what I've experienced in Holland, next slide, is that if we can take this circle, next slide, and if a transfer becomes necessary, we can continue this circle. And actually the midwife, these photos, the photographer is sitting with us in the panel. Michelle Tenberg took these pictures. If we can continue this circle in the hospital setting, then we can inspire hospital caregivers who maybe haven't seen a woman at the center of her birth experience. We can inspire them to come with us on her journey. And I've seen it happen time and again that a gynecologist that maybe says no when we start the birth, when he sees what is possible, or if she sees what is possible, they want it too. We all came to this profession for a reason, because we want to support women. Next slide, because I'm running out of time. And she needed to be monitored, but very quickly we could move her into the positions that she wanted. It is possible in hospital, and she could give birth to her baby. It was not the experience she wanted. Next slide. But as doulas, oh, that's exciting. I didn't know I did that. She didn't have the birth experience she wanted, but we were able to reconnect that circle and after birth get back into the birth pool with the mothers and babies. And these are the roles of the doulas, to support the women, to support their babies, to support the care providers. And what I would say in closing is we're seeing that the doula is growing exponentially in Holland, and I think it's not women need support, midwives need support. I'm excited, Carolina Oins is in the audience. The AMC, which is an academic hospital in Amsterdam, has also introduced a doula program. We need to all work together to create everything that we can to support women and put them at the center of their birthing experience. Next slide. And we can also do that by being part of things like our Dutch Doula Association. I'm excited to be a member of the Geboortebewaking, bring the mothers, the care providers together, create new opportunities for training for doula. In September, I'm starting a new doula program with my colleague Jackie Bloemrad de Boer. And what I'd like to leave you with is actually some words from Deborah Pasquale Bonero. I was afraid I would be emotional at the end and I would rush through and not say anything I planned to say. Is leave you with some of her words. Next slide. Together we must protect all options for women in childbirth, to birth at home, a birth center, a hospital, to have all the companionship she wants and deserves, to respect her values, culture, religion, comfort, and informed decision-making. No woman deserves any less on this sacred day of birthing a new life into the world. Thank you.
Happy birthday